Hey, what's up guys? Thanks for dropping by the channel. So for this video, I'm going to give you a full review of my Oris Aquis. And based on the serial number for this particular watch, I think this dates back to around 2016, 2017. And that's before Oris started pretty much using ceramic bezel inserts on all of the Aquis models. And it's also before some of them, they cut down on the thickness of the integrated bracelet. So this one maintains the original specs, and I think it's a testament to how well built these watches are, because it's definitely been getting a lot of use, and it's held up phenomenally. Now, since Oris is an independent Swiss watch manufacturer, they do get to kind of make more Marmite designs like the Aquis, and I think within the past 2 or 3 years, they started releasing a smaller version, a 39mm version. But this one is true to the original. It's a 43mm case diameter. Flipping the watch to the side, lug to lug here between my thumbs is 50mm, but it's a straight 50 because of the integration of the bracelet, which basically pulls straight down. It does hug to your wrist very well. And case thickness is just under 13mm, so not too thick, to an ever so slight domed sapphire crystal with anti-reflective application on the underside of that crystal. And then if you're interested, the lug gap here for the integrated bracelet, it starts off like close to 25mm, but then it tapers very nicely down to about 18 or 17 at the clasp. So purely based on the dimensions, I think it might intimidate some people with smaller wrist sizes, but I have to say that doesn't paint the full picture, because just the weight of the watch, the way that the integration for the bracelet, or there's a rubber strap option as well, which I'll show you later, it works surprisingly well, and it wears very comfortable on wrist. Now I think one of the things that Oris executed extremely well for the Aquis is just the dial layout. I just think it has really good symmetry. I mean, you have the date complication placed at the 6 o'clock, but you can see that they truncated one of the applied markers just to allow it to integrate fairly well. And that's offset by, if you look at the 12, you have the applied marker there that's slightly longer, so you can get quick orientation for this watch. And the finishing on the applied indices is quite nice. You can see that each index is faceted and polished on the sides, and then in the center of each, the markers are actually filled with what appears to be a blue BGW9 Swiss Super Loma Nova. And then if you look at the broad hour hand stack, again, high polish on them, and then you have a nice lollipop seconds hand there, and the hand stack is also filled with BGW9 Luminova, as well as you have a Lume pip within the triangle there at the 12. So actually, let me throw you up a low light shot of the Oris Aquis, just so you can see how well they applied the lume on this watch. It's actually quite good, and it lasts a very long time. And again, if you were to set this down by your nightstand before bed, and this will definitely get you through the night with low light legibility as far as the duration of the lume. Now, in natural light, legibility is also very high. You can get this watch in multiple colorways, but I really like, this is kind of like their gray anthracite dial. Now, moving away from the dial, you can see that this watch has a dive bezel, and the first 15 minutes are just hatch marks here, and then you do have the printed 20, 30, 40, 50 minute markings along the bezel as well, and it's like a black lacquer filled, very legible. I'm not too sure what this insert is made of. To me, it feels like stainless steel. But the bezel action is really top notch. You're getting a 120 click unidirectional bezel. So very positive detents. It's a little bit audible, but once it locks into place, there is no backplay there whatsoever. One minor nitpick about the bezel though is, even though it's a coinage style bezel and you can grip it quite easily, just the way these integrated lugs are, you really need to kind of grip between 12 and 6 to get the best purchase of the bezel. And you really can't go past it too much because the lugs kind of block you from overreaching in those areas. Now if we flip to the side, you can just see the very industrial and very utilitarian aspect of this watch. You know, you can see the nice slot screws here that hold in the integrated bracelet. And then there's even crown guards here that are held in by more of a Phillips style screws. And then you have a very big oversized Oris crown. Oris is nicely engraved into the crown, and knurling on it is extremely good. So you can unwind this crown to manually wind the Swiss automatic movement. Popping it out to the second position here is your quick date feature. And then if you pull it all the way out, it's got hacking seconds. So you see I stop the second hand. And then you can set this to any reference time you like. There's really hardly any wobble whatsoever to the crown. The crown tube is very solid, and rethreading this is extremely easy to do. So powering this watch, you're getting a Sellita SW200-1, which is a fairly common and workhorse Swiss movement. And you can actually see this movement through the case back. So if I flip this watch over, there's the Sellita SW200 just ticking away there. Really not too much modifications to the movement other than the rotor, which is Oris's custom high mech red rotor that you can see right there. Bracelet. The construction of this bracelet is extremely solid and very comfortable despite the added heft to it. Now you can see it's a 3-link design system that does taper quite well. The articulation is fantastic. You can see how each piece just articulates inward here. You can stack them on top of each other essentially. And there's some vents here between each link too, just to relieve any sweat, dirt, or seawater that accumulates under your wrist. For sizing individual links, they went with slot screws, which is extremely easy just to get in there with the right tool, unscrew the link, and resize it to your liking. And that brings you to the Oris clasp, which is machined extremely well. It's got very nice twin trigger release system here, which when you open it up, you can see this even swing arm portion is all milled out. And then if you look under the clasp, you can see that it's actually a 2-post system to release the swing arms. So in essence, you actually have to depress both of these twin triggers to release the swing arm. And then you also have a very well constructed dive extension if you need this to go over a wetsuit, or you just want some relief on a hot day if your wrist really swells up. So here's a quick wrist shot of the Oris Aquis on its supplied bracelet on my 19 centimeter circumference wrist, which if you're looking for imperial measurements, that's about 7.5 inches. And in this configuration, sized up for me, it is a little bit hefty, coming in at 198 grams, so just shy of that 200 gram mark. But again, it's extremely comfortable. I'm really surprised. It does give you some wrist presence. And again, it just gives you a lot of reassurance with respect to the build quality of this particular timepiece. I should mention, if you're not too keen on the integrated bracelet, Oris does provide leather and rubber integrated straps as well. I was fortunate enough in acquiring my Aquis, which I got through a trade, so I'm the second owner of this watch, but he actually forked out money to get the rubber strap as well, which is extremely well constructed. You can see there's a lot of desk diving on the clasp, but even opening it up, you can see how solid the clasp is. There's even some engine turn perlage inside the swing arm here. And the rubber here, it's, I don't know if it's vulcanized rubber, but it's very supple, very substantial. And I've purposely kept the spring bars here, just so you can see if you need to swap it out. Again, they're just the double-sided fat spring bars that Oris supplies. So you unscrew one screw head, you slip on the strap, and you screw it together, and you're good to go. As far as pricing goes, I think the Oris Aquis retails for around like 2,000 US dollars or something like that. But because there's so many Aquis models out there, and they're very popular among watch enthusiasts, you can probably get it on the secondary market for like half that price. Even slightly used, these watches hold up extremely well. Now, as far as potential improvements, I think a couple of points that a lot of people will focus on. One is the use of just a basic Sellita SW200 movement. Um, you know, there's not a lot of literature on Oris actually wanting to regulate these movements, but anecdotally, this watch only picks up about 4 or 5 seconds a day, but your tolerances may vary. Just be aware of that fact. And then some people are turned off by having an integrated lug and bracelet design, just because a lot of people will just want to be able to swap to any aftermarket option that they choose. My perspective on this is it's a double-edged sword, because I also am guilty of just trying to swap out the bracelet for a new watch to an aftermarket offering all too quickly. And in this case, Oris actually knocks it out of the park, in my opinion, both on its supplied integrated bracelet, but also with the available rubber and leather options from their manufacturer's website. So guys, that about wraps up my in-depth review of this Oris Aquis. I would love to see in the comments below what your guys' opinions are on owning the Aquis. And can you think of a better mid-Swiss tier luxury dive watch to have in the summer? Personally, for me, I'm definitely wearing this guy a lot more this summer, especially in the hot Canada weather. We're above 30 degrees on a daily basis right now. So thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you like this content, please consider subscribing to my channel. And as always, I'll catch you guys in the next video.